Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results. Hi, I'm Perry Holly, a Maxwell Leadership Facilitator and Coach.
And I'm Chris Cody, Executive Vice President with Maxwell Leadership. Welcome and thank you for joining. I'm excited about today's title, and I was just talking to Perry a minute ago because when I saw it, I immediately thought of Tim Elmore, who is one of our thought leaders, been an incredible communicator and content writer, and has created a ton of habitudes. Which are images, leadership images that really kind of drive our behaviors and our attitudes. And today's title leans that way a little bit. So I asked Perry, I was like,
I might have my first habitude.
We might have a little habitude. Now, he didn't draw anything to go with it, so we don't have an image. But here's what it reminded me of. One of the things that we do at Maxwell Leadership is we go into teams and organizations, and whether it's coaching, consulting, or training, really help them with some gaps that they have. What it made me think about is Tim is an expert on the next generation. And I always say the next generation because he's always studying the up and coming generations. One of the training and coaching curriculum that is on fire for us right now comes based out of one of his latest books, The New Kind of Diversity. Our training is leading multi-generational teams. And Perry has really dug into this. He's kind of our master certified trainer on that content piece. And it's going extremely well now that we have 5 generations in the workforce. So I don't know if you're listening to this by yourself or if you're with your team debriefing, you can just look around the room. There's plenty of different generations, even in this room right here. And I'm not saying, but
yeah, you are.
No, I am, but I'm not. Yeah. And we have Wade behind the studio for us. So we have 3 generations. Yeah. He's much older than Perry. Okay.
He's not.
But why I thought this was a habitude is because the title is brilliant, and I can't wait to unpack it with you today. We want to be a funnel, not a filter, when we're leading up, right? And John wrote some incredible content. We have some training around the 360-degree leader as well, and it just ties right into that, right? Because as a leader, you need to be aware of how am I leading, influencing, by the way, is how we define leadership. How am I leading my peers? How am I leading my direct reports? How am I leading myself? And then how am I leading my leader? And so am I being a funnel or not a filter? And what I love about this is that there are times, especially the bigger your teams get, the organizations get, as leaders, you can feel like there's a disconnect between you and what's maybe going on in the field or a couple levels down. And so this challenge becomes very real. And then what ends up happening is you build this inner circle, or organically an inner circle begins to come around you, whether you chose them or not. Yep. And then what ends up happening is you may not be getting the right perspective from that. And that's what we're going to dig into further today, because it really goes back to Perry's title here, which is, are the people around you being a funnel or a filter? And it's extremely key, because you don't want just yes people around you all the time, because you're not going to get the right answers. And as leaders, you need to know the right answers. You need to know the temperature of what's going down there. So talk to us a little about where this came from after that long setup, but I'm super excited to dive into this with you today.
I would consider this a classic John Maxwell teaching from over the years. And I think you should listen to it from 2 perspectives. One, you leading up. So as Chris was saying, you may be a leader in your own right in the organization, and you have a boss. Are you a funnel or a filter to that boss? You may be the boss and have people below you. Are they funneling or filtering to you? And how would you know? And how do you deal with that? Can you, this inner circles are fascinating. We probably should talk more about that.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, and we'll define both of these, but if, filter, if somebody below you is a filter, or if you're filtering for someone above you, is that you're just generally telling the leader what they want to hear. That yes person type of thing you mentioned. You may be promoting your own personal agenda, things that you're trying to get done, that maybe manipulating a bit. You think you're protecting the leader when you're really exposing the leader to risk, because you're not telling them everything. You're telling them what you think they want to know, or you're protecting them from that. And you may be manipulating, I just said that, the leader to get something for yourself. And so if you're a leader looking down at someone speaking to you, are they filtering it to you to have a manipulative type of a back to that? Or if you're leading up, are you just telling them what they want to hear?
I love the perspective of absorbing today's content from both of those perspectives. we're going to give it to you, obviously, from a corporate standpoint, as you were talking. I think this is so relevant personally as well, right?
Yeah.
And when we talk about a funnel, what we're really talking about is, hey, are you communicating to your leader? Are you getting to a place where you're informing them on things that they don't know, but they do need to know? You don't want them to be caught off guard in any type of situation. Matter of fact, I have not done this well at times before, and I've been in meetings with my leader, and something came out, and it was a very uncomfortable situation because I should have had the meeting before the meeting, and I should have been more of a funnel than filtering it. And so I've learned some hard lessons.
Is it like
through
I didn't
this.
think you needed to know, or I'm
Yes,
afraid to
not afraid.
Yeah, okay.
Just I'll handle that. You don't need to, whatever. I'll get it taken care of before it even becomes a major issue. And then it comes up in a meeting and it's like, what? When did that happen? And so I think it's just this word picture you've given us of the two is so good because they do need to know the facts. You need to know the facts looking at it. And we need to make sure that our leaders and us, if we're leading, are not the last ones to find out of very important things.
But you got me thinking, just coming off a script for a minute, but that's a very interesting dynamic is comes up, should I have told them?
Yeah.
But the one thing that you do here, and I actually, Mark, the whole organization kind of runs on an empowerment theme, is that we are, I feel, empowered to do my job, and that we're going to talk about leading up, taking things off your plate. I don't mean to be a filter of things, but I'm also thinking, should I handle it? You said I could have handled it, but I should have let them know. Is there a fine line? I don't want to burden. I'm thinking where I said, I don't want to burden you with things you don't need to worry about, but I also need to protect you from things you need to have known about.
Yeah, it's a fine line, right? And I think with the more experience that you have, you'll understand. What I found coming out of that situation was I immediately reacted and changed the behavior of saying, I would then maybe just email a weekly report. This is what's going on. I'm aware of this, whatever. And it's almost kind of like things that you should probably respond to, things you need to review, right? And then the rest of it, maybe you don't need to tell them. But it'll come with experience and situations that you gain with time over time. So I think it's a learned behavior that's going to end up happening.
Hey, podcast listeners. Many of you listening right now would probably love the autonomy that comes with owning your own business or becoming a coach that helps other businesses succeed. Well, we have a phenomenal strategy where you are 100% in control of your own business, earning income on your own terms, and have access to the people, tools, and resources you need to build a thriving leadership development business. When you become a Maxwell Leadership Certified team member, you join a global community of entrepreneurs led by our expert team of mentors and faculty, including John C. Maxwell. You'll also get one of the top leadership certifications in the world next to your name, giving you the boost you need to get started. Visit us online at maxwellleadership.com/join the team to find out more.
Well, you've been leading teams as well as I have for years and years, but can you tell a filterer from a funneler?
Oh, I like that. Add an to that. Are those English? I don't know, but we're putting it in there. The Executive Leadership Podcast.
I know the last two people they should ask about that is me and you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think you can, but I do want to say, you can tell, but it's going to take some time. Meaning, as a leader, you're going to have to be continuously reflecting on things that you're seeing, things that you're hearing. What are you aware of that comes out? Who and why are you aware of that? Like, who told you that? And then the other thing I wrote down here was, well, then how did it play out? And why that's key is, and that's why I say it's going to take a little time. Yes, you will know. You got to be in observation mode. But if you pay attention to how that played out, you're going to eventually be able to tie back how that played out to who and what made you aware of the situation, and what were you aware of, what were you not aware of. And then it's going to build its own little case with every individual in every situation. So it's like you're continuously doing this. And so there's some trust involved, all kinds of things. I think you can some you can intuitively feel it right away.
Yeah.
All right. But those that maybe not, I would say it's just gonna take a little bit of time to figure it out, but you got to always be paying attention.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I can't let it go. Something you said earlier about you referenced the inner circle. I think this is a leader's best friend.
Yeah.
I didn't have it when I was a younger leader, and I probably got in more trouble than I should have by thinking I had a little more ability to do things. I didn't have people watching me. I didn't have anybody I could bounce things off of. I didn't have a funnel to run things through.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, what's the value of this inner circle idea?
Yeah. So I learned this obviously from John. And when I first had the opportunity to spend some time with John early on, I learned about this inner circle. And really what I found was it was men and women around John that would protect his time. They would hold him accountable to the decisions that were being made, whether it was to execute on them, hold him accountable to why the decisions were made based off of his personal values. And so there's this group of inner circle men and women that John has around him that are that guide for him, right? To make sure that he's that way. But what's interesting is several years ago, John developed an outer circle. So we started digging in on this and we were like, well, John, why do you need an outer circle? And he would say, to us, he'd be like, well, you guys aren't expanding my thinking enough. You're not challenging my innovation. You're not. And it's really important to talk about this for just a minute, because when you think about those that are in your inner circle, 100%, you got to make sure that they are funneling, not filtering. But there are some in there that are going to maybe filter because, like I said a little bit earlier, right? I was like, oh, I'll handle that before it ever gets to that situation. Maybe that was right. Maybe it wasn't. But in the inner circle, you're probably going to have people that will lean more towards filtering than funneling. The outer circle, not only challenging John's thinking, innovation, bringing new ideas, but like they're just telling him how it is. Like, you know what the marketplace thinks about you, right? Like, or whatever it might be. And so he now has an inner and an outer circle of people around him that give him feedback and help him through things. So I know you also have some experience with the inner circle too.
Well, it's just it's just one or two, three people that absolutely will tell you the unvarnished truth about how you're perceived by others, about your decisions, about how you use your time, where are you, who you with, what are you doing, all these types of things that they can run through. But as you were speaking, I hadn't thought about it in terms of funnel filter, but they love me and they will protect me.
Yeah.
And in that protection, they may not tell me everything.
They may filter a few things.
Yeah, they filter just out of love and appreciation. But they won't let me get in trouble. But they also may not let me. I really appreciate what you share. They may not let me go to innovation and to change and to.
And that's what John was saying. Like,
yeah,
I love you guys.
Holding me back from stuff.
Yeah, I love you guys, and you want what's best for me, but like I'm ready to surf the waves a little bit, right? And so
I love it when I write this whole thing and then I come in here and learn something.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears.
Yeah.
We're talking a little bit about leaders leading down. So you're thinking about people that are funnel filtering to you, but let's talk about I'm looking up to my leader. And this is all in, you mentioned earlier about the 360 influence is 360 degrees,
right.
Up, down, and across. And so you either have influence with your boss or you don't. And if you're not going to be funneling very well if they don't listen to you. So keys to leading up, so you're the kind of person they want to hear from.
Right.
I think number one is how you lead yourself, that leading yourself well. And I'll just say that I always ask people, what does that mean? How can you tell if somebody leads themselves well? But the frames I put around that are, I can tell if you lead yourself well by how you manage your time. Are you out of control? You're always late. You don't have time to get things done. I'm not influenced by that. I'm influenced by people who manage their time. Managing your priorities. Do you know what's important? Are you working on unimportant? Are you majoring on minors? Or are you majoring on majors? I'm influenced by people who know the important things. How do you manage your emotions? That's a big one.
Yeah.
Can you maintain a consistency of emotion even when things are a little chaotic? And that I'm impressed by that. I'm influenced by people who can manage. They're not too high or too low. They're doing that. And maybe how you manage your energy that make them across in your attitudes, how you show up. And if you come up and you're woe is me and you're down and I'm not influenced by that. But this whole idea about leading yourself well is one of the key ones, I think.
I totally agree with you. And you hit it on the head. There's several things in there that you can pick up on right away, and you know whether or not someone's leading themselves well, no matter what level in the organization they are, right? But to Perry's point, you want to be doing that because your leadership, what we'll call your leadership brand, starts with this statement right here. And by the way, your brand's going to start showing up in meetings without you.
Right.
We'll do a whole another podcast on what that means. Right. And so it starts here. And so I think it's extremely important to do that. The other thing is that if you want to have this influence again with your leader so that your voice can be heard, so that you can have influence and make sure that you are funneling stuff up that needs to be heard, man, you have to do your job extremely well.
That's right.
Like those that are on a team that are hitting their KPIs and are grinding and figuring it out, whatever that might be, cost savings, revenue generating, doesn't matter. When you're doing that, I promise you, your leader is going to allow you to increase your influence with them. They're going to know that you're in tune with the business. They're going to know that you're in tune with what their expectations are of you. And so the only thing that would, one of the things, I should say the only thing that would kill influence extremely fast is, man, if that leader is having to defend you for not producing, week in and week out.
Well, so if you're trying to lead up and be that funnel that they want to hear from, you are leading yourself well, doing your job exceptionally well. The third thing I would say would be looking for ways to make your leader's job easier. We call that lightening your leader's load. And I can just hear, I don't know if you're hearing it, all the leaders saying, what? My plate is so full. You expect me to take something off of their plate to do that.
Yeah.
But I think if you are doing these other things, you're doing your job exceptionally well, you already are lightening their load. I don't have to follow around behind you and see your things getting done. You're making my job easier to do that. One thing I do when we teach this, and people they do push back on this one a little bit, but I say, do you know the number one challenge your leader's facing right now? And I'm a little bit stunned about the very few people that can tell me that.
Yeah,
Have you thought about what is the number one thing your leader is struggling with right now? And the reason I want to know that is that I may, just by doing my job exceptionally well, by keeping my eyes and ears open, by being attentive to, I know that's the challenge my boss is facing. There may be things I can do in my normal day of work that I could go the extra mile perhaps and lighten my leader's load.
Yep.
Maybe it is funneling some information to them. It's protecting them from things they don't know, whatever they may be. And I'm trying to think about with you about things that you're dealing with, thinking how I can lighten, how can I make things easier for you?
Yep.
And so if we're all thinking about that for our leader, it sets your leader up to, one, want to hear from you, and two, not have to be focused on down things. They can be focused on ahead things to do that.
And a perfect example of that is even with just what we're doing right here in the podcast. We've talked about how this started before, but Perry's already taking care of a ton of content for us. That is Perry's sweet spot. He is what we say as John Maxwell's business pen for us. And all of the training that we do and podcasts, it comes directly from Perry. Well, it's not my skill set. It's not my strong suit to sit down and write. And so he said to me, hey, well, what if I just bring thoughts to our podcast and then you just react off of it and we just have a dialogue? And now I don't have to sit down and think, how am I going to come up with, now it's your responsibility. Now we're how many
310 episodes
okay,
later?
He knows. He knows how many titles and content he's had to create. So thinking like that, to your point, right? It's like, what are you gifted at? What are you already doing that you could just pull some stuff off those that you work with load? So I love that. Here's another one that we just want to share with you as you think about this, so that you can be a funnel, so that you increase your influence with your leader, is just make sure that you know when to push and when to back up a little bit. Some team members I've had in the past have just had a habit of just continually pushing back, continually arguing for the sake of arguing, or trying to prove a point, or, you know what, I don't think that budget's going to hit because of this. We ought to relook at that. And it's just that devil's advocate in every meeting. And eventually that just gets tiring, so much so to the point of where you begin to lose influence and maybe even lose your position or opportunity. And so there's a balance. You do need to challenge 100%. We don't all need to believe and think the same thing on the team, but you just need to know when to push, when to back down. And Because not only is that an issue in regards to your influence and maybe your job, but also then the leader is beginning to question, do I really trust this individual? What does that look like? Right? Are they trying to push this for an alternative reason, or is it really for the betterment of the organization? And as soon as those conversations start happening, you are losing influence with your leader.
Well, I want people to push. I want them to check me. I want them to dissent if they want to. We have that freedom, and I trust you with that. But if it starts to be about your own agenda and you're filtering things to me, then you're hear John in my head. He said, one of two things: you're either motivating me or manipulating me, and I'm not impressed or influenced by a manipulator. And I always have this idea when I'm listening to people: motive matters. Why are you doing what?
That's right.
You, as you're talking to your
Motive
boss, why are you doing that? Is your motive to help them, grow them, protect them, enhance their growth, their success? Do it.
Yeah.
Even if you got to push back a little bit, but if the answer is no, the answer is no, and let's move on. Now you're trying to manipulate.
That's right. That's right. Well, as we wrap up, I love this conversation and the importance of it, not only for those that are listening, the influence and your leaders, but then also those that are leading you. Remember, influence, so it can come from anywhere. And so as we wrap up, I want to go back to this funnel versus filter word picture. And what I was thinking about while you were talking just a minute ago, I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, no doubt, right? The funnel, even though I get a ton of information at the top, I'm only still funneling at the right time things through that funnel that my leader needs to know. I can't shove everything through there at one time. And so it still is a pace, it's still an art, but yet you're still you're still allowing it to go through the funnel.
Dumping.
But you're not dumping. Yeah, it's not like we're taking, and it's just,
made this a habitude.
This is unbelievable. Like Tim Elmore is he probably already has one. We just don't know it, right? That's probably what's happening. But it's so important. So here's what it does for the leader when we do this. It helps that leader ensure that he's getting accurate information and putting out accurate information. And it's complete, right? Like, have you ever been in a situation where a leader comes up and says something and then somebody's like, ooh, that's not right. But his team knows that's not right. Well, why does he not know that's not right? So it ensures accurate and complete information to the leader. It allows the leader to make better decisions. Again, I love Perry's idea of perspective. Think about this going both ways. And then finally, it allows the leader on behalf of the organization or the team to respond swiftly to issues. In this training course, the 360-degree leader that we do for organizations, we go through an exercise of cards, of rules. What's the leader's rules? And one of mine is that my team knows is bring things to me quickly that you think I need to know. Now, I'm trusting them of what they think I need to know, but I also love the fact that if something shows up, they're just going to let me know right away so that I have time to think about it, process it, or respond as quickly as possible. So love that this content is built off that 360-degree leader. I do want to encourage you. Perry's going to tell you where to go fill out a form, but if we can help your team in any way around some of these conversations as a leader, we would love to do it. As I close, here's my last comment for you. I wrote this statement down as I was thinking about today and preparing for this. And if you do this, it builds a culture of what we communicate to each other. Meaning as a leader, I want to go first. And so what I communicate to you, then once that begins happening, I'm going to trust that I'm getting the same type of communication back to me versus, is Perry, what is Perry filtering out and what he's telling me right here? Or is he funneling the information that I need to know, even though I work directly for Perry? So as I was thinking about this, and maybe it's a little bit of me being naive, but as I communicate one way to my leaders, then if that's how and what I communicate, the way I expect, it's going to come back the same way out of respect for me. And so I would just encourage that leaders go first, model this, man, be a funnel, not a filter, both to your team and to your leader.
Yeah, maybe a coaching moment to help your folks be more funnels for you. Great conversation. As Chris mentioned, there's a website where you can get more information about our offerings, including this 360-degree leader, as well as you can learn about our other podcast offerings. You can also leave us a comment or a question. We love hearing from you. You can do all that at Maxwell Leadership. maxwellleadership.com/podcast. And thank you for joining us today. That's all from the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership to new heights? Join the movement towards High Road Leadership with John C. Maxwell's latest book. In High Road Leadership, John explores the power of valuing all people, doing the right things for the right reasons, and placing others above personal agendas. Learn how to inspire positive change and bring people together in a world that divides. Order now and receive exclusive bonuses, including a keynote on High Road Leadership by John Maxwell himself and a sneak peek into 3 impactful chapters. Take the first step towards becoming a High Road leader. Visit highroadleadershipbook.com to order your copy today.